We talk a lot about the climate crisis on this show, but we want to make sure that you don't just get educated about it and what needs to be done, but that you actually become a part of the solution, perhaps by joining an organization that is organizing to stop the climate crisis that we're currently facing. And it's difficult to think in America of a better organization for you to join up with than the Sunrise Movement. That's why I'm very excited to welcome to the show now Digital Director for the Sunrise Movement, Matthias Lehman. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Great to have you on. So look, we've spoken with a number of representatives of the Sunrise Movement in the past. In this case, we reached out because of a series of boot camps that you're organizing called Strike Circles. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so we know that what we fundamentally need to do is build a generation of organizers in order to get the Green New Deal, right? This is not one quick bill that we want to get passed to avert the climate crisis. We're done. We can all kick back and relax. So strike circles are our way of building a whole generation of organizing power.
Okay, and so look, it looks like unfortunately the sign up for that sort of cycle of strike circles has moved on, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that people can get involved with. So what are some of your upcoming events or like sort of activities that people could sign on to?
Yeah, so just to give you a quick update, strike circles are not over. They work in cohorts, right? So we'll have a cycle of strike circles that complete, and then we'll start a new cycle. And our new cycle of signups is actually going up today. It's at sunrisemovement.org/strike. And the idea undergirding strike circles specifically is there's this image people have of an organizer, and it's like an activist with a sign who talks to their elected officials and has all these super skills. And that's not what organizing is. Organizing is when a lot of different ordinary people come together with the skills that they have, whether it's video editing, social media skills, maybe they're just comfortable in front of a crowd, maybe they're an artist that wants to make signs. You bring all those skills together, that's what organizing is. And so strike circles are about us showing ordinary people in our generation that they actually already have the skills to organize. They just need to come together to do so.
So let's say an individual wants to get involved in that next cohort. What is the actual experience going to be like for them?
Yeah, so it's a remote program. It's a series of web conversations with our coaches who are going to walk you through a program of training that includes things like how to run an art action and an art build to make the art for that action, how to do petition drops, things like that. So your basic organizing work that someone might find very intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple once you start.
Okay, and so in terms of other potential inroads for people, we saw that you have what are called Sunrise trainings, as well as a welcome call coming up, I think for February 27th, so just, I believe that's tomorrow actually. So tell us a little bit about those.
So the welcome call I'll touch on first. It's pretty simple. It's just for people that are new to the movement and want to know what we're doing in the next month or so. We have these regular welcome calls that are an onboarding to Sunrise Movement, what we're pursuing. I can tell you now, it's the Green New Deal, and what sort of the DNA of our organization is.
You know, I was curious. I believe the last time that we had a representative from your organization on, we talked a little bit about the early scorecards that your group put out, rating some of the Democratic presidential candidates on their approach to dealing with the climate crisis. And at the time, you had put out scorecards for Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, and Bernie Sanders. Are there any plans forthcoming for some of the other candidates, perhaps some of the late entries like Mike Bloomberg?
I think it is likely that we will rate Mike Bloomberg and Buttigieg as they have emerged as contenders. I will say you can also just go look at Greenpeace that also has a pretty good rating program. They've given Bloomberg a C+, and they had a pretty condemning statement when he first released his plan. Mayor Bloomberg's current climate policy simply has too many holes to be taken seriously. The stakes of this election for the climate crisis are too high for empty rhetoric. They cited the fact that he actually didn't outline a transition off of fossil fuels, which really should be the basic thing you need.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's had philanthropy around a number of different issues, including like gun control, but climate change is supposedly one of the things that he's been really invested in. And so one thing I'm curious about, when you're doing outreach, you're sending people out and they're speaking to people about climate change, about the various plans, about the Green New Deal, I've noticed through all of these debates that all of the candidates try to pitch themselves as taking it seriously. A lot of them say they're gonna support the Green New Deal. For regular voters, do you think that they can tell a difference between the different candidates, that they do know who's taking it relatively more seriously?
I think voters don't get fooled very easily. We have this image of like campaigning being this high-tech thing and the voters are taken in by the spectacle. But if you look at what happened in Nevada, the plurality of people who listed climate change as their top issue voted for Sanders. And I think a lot of what the different lens that candidates have that allows them to all say they're the climate champion is because climate change is a little bit of a nebulous issue in how people talk about it. It's sort of a Rorschach test. And so when Bloomberg or Biden talk about climate change, they're talking about reducing emissions, that's it. And what that focuses on is the future, but it doesn't look at the ways in which the fossil fuel industry and our fossil fuel economy have actually harmed people in the present as well. It doesn't address the years of inequality around pollution in majority, minority communities that leads to things like asthma, heightened cancer rates, et cetera. These are all part of climate change. And so any climate change plan that isn't fundamentally a climate justice plan is gonna leave those people out in the cold.
And that sort of distinction is why I think it's even more important that climate change receive more than just sort of shallow once-over approach in our debates. And unfortunately, that's for the most part what we've been getting so far. But it's great that there are organizations like Sunrise to make sure that people do get the information that they need. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you.
And we've given people different ideas of how they can get involved with the different group, And so Matthias gave some great information there. And so if you're interested, definitely take a look. There are multiple ways that you can get involved. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.